Well, welcome to the UGLO webinar series Spotlight on Education. 1 hour, 2 aspects, 1 topic, 2 partners. But in this occasion, we have 4 colleagues from the University of Tromsø and LMU, Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich. My name is Lorena. I work at the University of Alcalá. And today I have the honor and the pleasure of moderating this session on the ABC learning design method and how it can help all of us to conceive and structure our courses or modules. 115 colleagues from the 9 partner universities in UGLO have registered for this webinar, so it's been very successful and a very exciting topic. I think you've managed to convince many people that what we're going to talk about this afternoon is really helpful and really exciting for them. So I'm just going to introduce our 4 speakers this afternoon. To start with Dr. Kine Maridatter Dörum Maxwell. She's an associate professor for teaching at the Center for Teaching, Learning and Technology at the University of Tromsø. She holds a PhD in cognitive psychology from the University of Leicester in the UK, and her research focuses on the student learning process and the impact of learning methods or learning design methods on student outcomes. She's also involved in providing guidance for staff on learning design and improving, in general, educational practices. Also from Toronto is Andrea Watkins Perez. She holds a PGCE in Spanish and French, and she worked extensively in secondary schools in the UK before moving to Tromsø, where she now works as an advisor. Andrea's expertise focuses on instructional design and using digital tools to enhance and improve learning. From LMU, I have the pleasure to introduce you to Ashley Haberman Lawson. She holds a master's degree in psychology of the learning sciences, and she has worked on numerous e-learning projects, including an Erasmus capacity building in Southeast Asia. She currently leads a virtual exchange at LMU and works as a learning manager for UGLO, where she has developed an UGLO certificate program. In addition to that, she works as an instructional designer for the Bavarian Virtual University and conducts ABC learning design workshops together with her colleague, Lars Jansen. Lars, who's also with us this afternoon, works within the LMU e-university team, developing staff training opportunities, coordinating e-learning projects, and supporting educators in their digital education endeavors. And as I've said before, he works together with Ashley for the Bavarian Virtual University, and they conduct together ABC Learning Design workshops. And I think they're going to work together in something that you will all be very interested in, and that will take place in April, but I'll let them explain that to you. Just for organizational aspects, you can write all your questions, all the questions you want to address to our speakers this afternoon in the chat. And you can also, it would be very nice if you could share your experiences in designing learning methods so that we can discuss them in the second half of the webinar. When leaving the webinar, a very short survey will pop up, and we will be very thankful if you could just answer it because it helps a lot when designing these webinars. So now I will give the floor to my colleagues, and I'm really excited to listening to you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the very kind introduction. We hope to give you a very brief insight into the ABC Learning Design method. And so today we're going to gain an introduction into the ABC Learning Design, and we'll share some insights into our experiences at the UIT and at LMU Munich, and then we'll give you a brief teaser of what's coming up in the near future. So, what is ABC Learning Design? Well, want to help developing a course? Let's introduce the ABC Learning Design. It was developed by UCL and used in a number of countries. It's a rapid prototyping workshop to develop and design learning in 90-minute sprints. It's based on Lorena's conversational framework, and storyboarding is used to structure the course. The learning process is divided into 6 learning types. The 6 learning types are acquisition, investigation, collaboration, practice, discussion, and production. And what do we offer? We offer an introductory Moodle course that prepares you for the workshop. You gain an insight into the method, learn about the learning types, and discover the components. Then we have the rapid prototyping workshop, which is a 90-minute sprint. And it's all about collaboration. So that's a very brief introduction to what the ABC Learning Design is. It's an effective and engaging hands-on, card-based approach to curriculum design, which is a very student-centered, rapid curriculum development method. It engages academics in informed dialogue about the learning design, review of programs or modules or courses, and it's built on curriculum design research from JISC, which is a UK-based non-profit organisation that is aimed at higher education and provides information and communication technology support for learning, teaching and research. And it's also based on Diana Laurelad's conversational framework, which is one of the many methods used for learning design. It was developed by Clive Young and Natasha Porovich from UCL. And now we're going to show you a little bit about what we did at LMU to integrate it into our systems here.
Yes, so welcome all and thank you for joining. The ABC Learning Design Workshop is something where there is a lot of information available online. So if you do research it on your own, these phases are something that you will not find. What we've done at LMU Munich is that we've structured different steps in the design workshop into these 8 steps, in these 8 phases in a way, to make it more graspable for the scientists that join the ABC Learning Design Workshop for the first time. And what you can see here in the picture on the right-hand side is a picture of all the material that we use. And we'll go through all of those step by step. So the first step is the orientation phase 1. And what you can see here on the right-hand side is basically what participants are supposed to be doing in this first step, where they, as a team, decide on one description for their course. They give it a module name, they state who is in there, and then you can see on the lower part here, there's a summary, a tweet-sized description of your module, which aims to get every single person on board of what the core of what they're going to be planning is. With this, based on this, we're going into the next phase, which is the didactical planning. And there's 2 things to be decided here. The graph in the top part is basically a result of a small discussion of everyone participating and planning the workshop to say, how do we envision this? How much acquisition is going to be in this workshop or in this seminar or program or course? How much collaboration? So you come up with this little graph, and then underneath the blended graph is basically where you say, how much online and how much face-to-face is in this course that we are planning, because the ABC Learning Design Workshop is very much aimed at planning not only online or only face-to-face courses or programs, but very much a mix of this, so a blend of this. In the third phase, as she's already said it is a based on storyboarding approach. So you have the general planning. You see these cards here in the image discussing acquisition, investigation, collaboration, production in a general planning phase. The team goes ahead and says, well, we would like to start with discussion, for example. That's the entry point. And then go on with acquisition, basically just focusing on the general learning steps in a way, and the phases, really very broad, very general. Then in the detail planning phase, you turn the cards around, and Ashley will talk more on the cards themselves in a second. On the back of all cards, you can see one part has conventional methods and one part has digital technologies, where you can basically pick the activity that you would like to use to give this phase a little bit of life, basically. So would you like it to be in the acquisition, for example? Students could be reading a paper. Digitally, they could be watching an animation, and this helps to go into more of a detailed phase of the planning, which at this part is obviously still very general, but it goes into details. The next phase is the assessment planning, and you can see here that we've marked these silver and golden stars, and they are basically to mark formative and summative assessment moments within your course. So if you know that at a certain point you would like to add a formative assessment possibility, you use a silver star, and for summative it would be a golden star, just to discuss how you assess the learning of your students. And then with general planning done, you go into the reflection phase. You go back to the graph that you've done in the beginning, and you discuss again while looking at the storyboard, well, how much acquisition did we actually have? Well, that seems to be about the amount that we wanted, but there's a bit more collaboration. So the graph changes, and you discuss within your team, is that something that is okay? Is it all right that this changed, or should we go back into planning and maybe adjust a little bit? And then step 7, or phase 7, would be presentation and feedback. So this is very much a hands-on collaborative workshop, where at this point you would share your storyboard with all other teams working and discuss what you are planning and receive feedback from all the colleagues attending. And then in the last phase, a very useful phase, in my opinion, is the action plan, where you discuss what are the concrete steps after this workshop, because the workshop is quite short. It's supposed to be about 90 to 120 minutes. And with a big plan ready at that point, it's very helpful to come up with a precise action plan of who is going to do what and when.
Now I can talk a little bit more about the cards. So these cards are very fun because they're very textile, and you can use it and put it on the board. So the first one that we have is acquisition. So acquisition is what the learners are doing when they are listening to a lecture or a podcast. So it's a bit more passive, but it's an important stage in learning. We then have investigation, which guides the learner to explore and compare and critique text, documents, and different resources, and reflect on the concept and ideas that are being taught. Practice is when the learner adapts their conceptual understanding to a task and utilizes feedback to modulate their understanding. So this could be through practice exercises, online role play activities. It's where they really get feedback, and it supports the learner's concepts. And then production is the way in which the teacher motivates the learner to consolidate what they have learned by articulating their current conceptual understanding and how they used it in practice. So really producing something, so for example, an essay or documents or slideshows. Discussion is where the learner has to articulate their ideas and questions, and to challenge and respond to the ideas and questions from the teacher or their peers. And the last stage is collaboration, which embraces discussion and practice and production, but it builds on the acquisition and investigation, and is about taking part in the process of knowledge building itself. So really hands-on collaborating. So working on small group projects, discussing others' inputs and building a joint digital output. And now we can share some insights. So I will hand over to Kine and Andrea to give us an insight from UIT.
Thank you. Yeah, so that was short about how the method works. Now, we've decided to do a kind of a chronological thing here. So at UIT or at universities in Norway as such, we don't or didn't have much of a tradition when it comes to instructional design and learning design as such. So back in 2018, we first began exploring instructional design as a way to kind of improve our courses and programs. So that kind of laid the groundwork, as it were, for efforts to kind of support staff in planning and revising their teaching approaches. So then in 2021, by way of serendipity, I suppose, we came across the ABC model, and it really caught our attention because it has this kind of playful element to it. And it was a kind of a fresh take for us on curriculum design. And what it did, we found, was that it gave us this kind of structured, hands-on way for teams to work together on course design. So we decided to then incorporate this into our staff development programs and the workshops from then on. And then in 2022, we held our first sort of proper ABC workshop. So that was a bit of a key moment in our push to make design a more kind of collaborative and systematic process across the university. But we couldn't kind of adopt it wholesale, as it were. It was developed in the UK and in a European context, as Ashley and Lars said. So we've had to adapt it to UIT and to the Norwegian context. So we needed to make sure that it was relevant to our local context and addressing the needs and the practices here at UIT and in Norway more broadly. And we made sure that we could align it with program revisions and online developments and such. So what we do then, these workshops usually happen typically during program revisions or when new online programs are being developed. And the nice thing then is if we're kind of approached in a timely fashion, we can actually make a difference with this. So we've found that timing the workshops is quite important. And we work typically with smaller teams and departments, so groups working within a particular program or on a course. And then we customize the workshops for these specific teams and departments. And we do that in order to make them relevant, because all departments, and here is a shot from one of our early sessions. Actually, we hadn't got the material up and running, so it was brown packaging paper and print-offs of PowerPoint slides, but it worked. So we worked on it to make it more, to ensure that the discussions that would occur, that usually do occur when we sit down with a group of faculty and discuss program revisions and such, that we could keep them on track and keep them focused. And that's what's so superb, I guess, with having that timed, structured approach to doing this, because it forces people to actually get their juices flowing and get participating. And then we can take those tricky discussions later on. And yeah, so we try tailoring it, and we try kind of opening up for people to approach this in their own way. So for some, they will develop a storyboard that's linear and divided into modules or weeks or whatnot, and others may come up with completely different shapes. So whatever makes sense that helps them visualize their journey or their students' journey works. So that's how it's developed here at UIT, I suppose.
Thank you. That was a very interesting insight in how you guys went about it. Our story starts in 2022 in Q3. We started localizing the method. So we had heard of it directly from the source, Clive Young and Natasha Perovich, and interest started gaining traction at LMU Munich. So we researched everything that we could, and we localized all the materials to the LMU context because obviously because it is of English origin, we had to translate the material. And then in 2023, we had a trainer workshop with Clive Young himself in Munich, which was very beneficial for us and our team to get a real insight in how to organize the workshops and what we had to focus on and things that we could add or maybe develop in the long run. Q4, we held our first workshop, pilot workshop here at the LMU, actually for the virtual Bavarian University. And then in Q2 of this year, we held our first ABC workshop for a team within UGLO. It's very much an impromptu workshop for smaller teams at this point. We have the material ready and printed. So if we get the question, hey, this is something that my team could use, would you be able to host a workshop? We can respond to that relatively quickly. And we are focusing also on joint course design for the regional virtual university because that follows the same principle where two universities have to combine to create a course. And yeah, we've had great participant feedback. Most people give the feedback that it's too short, that they would like to spend more time because it is very much a time frame of 90 to 120 minutes. And it's been quite lovely to see the synergies between different people from different backgrounds and also having that shared design language that it offers.
Yeah, it really helps people speak the same language because when you come from different faculties, you think of things in different terms. And so this really gives you the same language to speak together, which is really nice. And the feedback has really been really positive, and you've got some really good discussions going when you talk about, okay, so how are we going to structure this course? How are we going to design this? Because you really have to talk together and think about it, which lecturers often don't have the time for because they're very busy, they've got lots to do. And this really says, okay, we've got 90 minutes, we're just going to carve out and sit down and really think about the design of this course. And so it's really beneficial. And so, yeah, in UGLO, one of our key aims in the work package that we are talking about now, work package 2, is to develop joint learning pathways and educational development. And so we have a very exciting upcoming workshop opportunity, which is the ABC Learning Design UGLO staff days. So this will be 2 days in person with a half-day virtual follow-up. And this will be on the 8th and 9th of April next year at LMU. So we will run this workshop together, both LMU and UIT, and we will focus on 4 pillars. So these are the learning outcomes, objectives, goals, the activities, so the ABC Learning Design itself, and then evaluation and inclusion. And so we're very excited to say that there'll be more information coming soon, and the application will be open soon for people to apply and come and develop joint courses together with us. So if you want to be updated and maybe share a bit more information with us about your needs, then please use the QR code to answer a few questions.
Yeah, and can I just add, Ashley, that almost every time, I'd say every time we run these workshops, they turn out to be a lot of fun, actually, because they're very hands-on and people actually move around and do things. And it's a completely different kind of climate attitude than you would in a normal kind of planning meeting. It just frees people a lot more, I've found.
Yeah. As soon as you start working with like the paper, it's really exciting for people. You see like, oh, we're going back to fun things. And it's not just oh, we've got to plan this. We're going to do it with like a document where everything's just written down. There's no color, there's nothing. This is really active, hands-on. So yeah, and if you have some questions, we'd love to learn more about course design at your institutions. And if you're planning any joint courses within UGLO, we'd love to hear more if you put your comments in the chat. And I guess we're open for questions now.
Thank you very much for all of you for this very interesting and really engaging presentation. It's been really interesting to hear all about it. And we do have a few questions already. First of all, oops. Aline Costa wanted to know if the presentation was going to be available, and I forgot to say that the webinar is being recorded, so it will be notified to you as soon as the webinar is available on the UGLO YouTube channel, as Sarah Westman, who I haven't thanked, but she's always on the backstage helping these webinars take place and not have too many complications. Already told you about that. And then we have a question. Joe Almeida would like to know whether you have tried to use ABC learning design method with digital tools or platforms, LMS platforms such as Moodle, for example.
I think this might be a question where Kine probably has a lot to say, because you guys obviously did ABC during Corona. The thing that we do know is that Clive and Natasha from UCL had been hosting digital formats of this workshop during the Corona pandemic, and they were experimenting and trying a lot of different ways of doing it. They had Excel tables, they had Moodle courses, they used Miro boards. So there was a lot of development and ongoing trials and error basically during that time. And there are also some platforms that are very close to ABC Learner Design, but at the end, it does really live of that hands-on in-person approach where you are in the same room and where you really work with that paper, move it around, rethink everything while moving the cards. But yeah, Kine, maybe you guys can share some experiences from it during Corona.
Yeah, those were basically our experiences. We tried doing it on PowerPoint documents to make it easy, which kind of worked. I mean, you can move these cards around and such, but it wasn't ideal. We also played around with Mural and created kind of notice boards or big boards in Mural and did timelines and that kind of stuff there, and had pre-prepared bits in Mural for them to play around with, and it did work. I mean, you kind of adapt, but you do lose some of, like you said, Lars, some of the valuable bits with ABC, which is the immediacy, because as soon as you're in a mediated format like that, it's not as how should I put it, lively. And people have those, oh, how do I move this? Oh no, now that one is locked. Can I type now? Blah blah blah. And then it kind of it gets a bit kind of hampered by that. But it does work. I mean, you needs must. And it's definitely doable, but it is more fun when you're all together in the same room. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. We have another question from Beata Utvari. She would like to, well, she asks you if you could please detail how this method is used for an entire study program revision. How are the workshops organized by module? How do you bring together the results of different modules? Or how many workshops are needed for the whole revision? I think Kine was nodding. I don't know if you want to answer.
I can start, and then maybe, yeah, it depends. Yes. We've used it on entire study programs. We did a master's in crisis management that went from campus to online. And we worked across about 2 semesters, and I can't quite remember how many workshops, and we did work between the workshops, but so let's say 4. Now, they weren't all straight ABC workshops. We started off with kind of working out what we were actually dealing with, and the intended learning outcomes and all that stuff. And then we used ABC as part of that process. And then once we got the storyboards and those things more or less sorted, we arranged different timelines, visual timelines for each course or each module, so that we could see visually where things would overlap and what the workload was for the students, for example, if it was clustered too much in one period and that kind of stuff. So it gave us a nice way of visualizing how the whole course would look.
I can add in as well that for a program, because ABC Learning Design is very much you work in groups, so you could have different groups working on different modules, and because you have to present each time, so at different stages of the ABC Learning Design workshop, you present to each other so you can see if there's overlap or you can see if there needs to be adaptations. So it's very much collaborative, and it's a very good method of designing or redesigning a study program because of this. You can then really get an overview of what is happening in each module and make sure that there's cohesion.
And one thing that is also quite valuable about the method, because it is, if you've worked with it, it is a very open method. It is quite adaptable and flexible. So you can use the same method to look at a program on the program level. So really look at where does the student start within, let's say, a master's of 2 years, and how does that progress? But then also use the same tool for different modules within that program of 2 years. So that really gives it the opportunity to go ever so deep into the program with that same method. And especially when teams are used to the method itself, it becomes more useful every single time.
And also, this is a very student-centered approach. So you look at it from a student perspective. So it's the student's journey throughout.
Yeah. That's, yeah, and you can use, I mean, you can even use it down to a lesson level. It's so flexible. So it's basically just adapting it to fit what you're dealing with in each case. So that's kind of what makes it work, I think.
Yeah, and also if you're going into the revision process, obviously that is very different from coming up with a new course format. And the way that you can approach that is that you start with, well, let's visualize how the current status is and what we're actually doing, to then make a module or a whole program discussable, to talk about it and to come up with that shared language where you can say, okay, so we've got the visual of how it is currently, and now let's see where we're want to go and what we want to change.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that the beauty of it is exactly what Kine was saying, that you can adapt it to many different spheres and many different levels and sizes, no? That it sort of fits all sizes, no? That you can do it for a course, for a whole study program, for a module, for a class, no? It seems to me, I mean, I'm completely newbie, but it looks really, really useful and interesting. Aline, as many of us is interested in the staff days you're going to organize in April, and I think she would like to know if we will have another meeting. Maybe not, but this will be publicized on UGlow's website, and I suppose we will all get the information in due time. I assume you're just working towards that.
Yeah, this will be published on the UGlow website with an application form on it, so you'll find more information there.
So just follow YouGlow on different social media or check the website from time to time. Simona Bekic, thanks you all for the presentation. Her question is, do you think the ABC model could be applied for creating programs in informal education?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been pretty much stressed that you can do it for any kind of program you want, from big and small. It's true that like a lot of the activities on the back of the cards are a bit more higher education focused. But if you, I don't know if you've maybe noticed, there are some bullet points that are empty. And the idea with that is that you can add activities that you would normally do in your courses. So if there's anything in the informal education, like an activity that you feel applies to the collaboration task or the acquisition task, you can add them there, and then you can select them in the same way. But the processes would be exactly the same, and you would add the assessment if that's something that there is. But if you're, for whatever reason, there is no kind of assessment in your process, you can just scrap that. But it just shows that it is also, adaptable in terms of the types of education. You just change the activities on the back that might be more relevant for the informal education setting.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I forgot, Aline Costa was also mentioning the elephant in the room of education nowadays, which is AI, artificial intelligence. How do you deal with these? I mean, does the ABC design learning method reinforce the figure of the instructor with regards to or in front of what artificial intelligence can do? I don't know if you have a view on that or if you have reflected upon that.
I suppose, yeah, you can't not nowadays, but it depends on what aspects of AI and AI tools you're thinking about. But on a general level, or from a learning design point of view, I find that the ABC can actually be valuable in helping us cope or deal with what AI is throwing at us right now. And I can only speak for my university or the Norwegian context, but certainly here, a lot of focus has been on assessment, especially summative assessment, and what do we do now that people have got generative AI and can cheat and so forth, and can we detect AI? What you can do with ABC and similar approaches is you can focus more on what's actually important here, which is the student learning with whatever tools are out there. So in terms of the assessment conundrum, you can then get a clearer picture of what is it exactly that you want your students to be learning, or what kind of knowledge and skills are they do you intend for them to gain, and then you choose the assessment method based on that, rather than very often, as I see here, is that we've just decided on one type of assessment and that's what we do, and then we try to shoehorn everything else to fit with that, and now oops, all of a sudden we can't do kind of conventional exams, so everything falls to pieces. Whereas with the ABC and with that kind of mindset, I think we're more prepared to answer what ABC, well, there you go, what AI is representing some of the issues, certainly.
And also a benefit that the ABC Learning Design brings, like Andrea said, you can add different activities into the different cards, and that I think helps instructional designers or lecturers to look at AI as a tool and to think, well, how could we use AI to, let's say, do collaboration, for example? How could it be an asset in teaching, and plan for that as well? Because it is, by design, ABC Learning Design very much wants you to think of a blended format, online and offline activities, face-to-face and in your learning management system. So I think that is an asset there as well.
Thank you. Beata Utvali also wants to know what challenges you met when you use ABC learning design. What challenges, what obstacles, what maybe resistance you might have faced in your institutions. Lars, you're on the screen.
Sure. So as we do not have ABC Learn Design as something that lecturers need to use. There's not really a lot of resistance there in that way, but we do know from different universities and different experiences that sometimes lecturers can be hesitant to reflect on their own teaching and to go into that process of changing their teaching. And there where it's been kind of a top-down approach to use LC Learning Design, there's a bit of resistance, you could say, to using it. Sometimes acceptance is difficult to explain to lecturers that a hands-on approach where you do a storyboard is something that they can actually really benefit from. But then, funny enough, we've had a few participants coming back to us and saying, well, another professor saw the storyboard hanging in the office and said, "Oh, that looks very interesting. What is that? Oh, you did a workshop. Oh, okay. We need to see if we can get those people back in and do another workshop for this or that." So as long as it's not something that's a top-down approach or used as a top-down approach, then I think there's not much resistance, at least from our experiences so far.
Yeah, and just to add, like Lars said, because it's not a compulsory thing, it's also a challenge for us to get the interest and to reach the different faculties, because LMU is quite a big university, and so to actually reach our target audience is quite difficult. And that's one of the challenges that we have to overcome at the LMU. But once you get people in the door, that's it. They're really engaged and really interested in it. We haven't really had resistance once we have lecturers there in the room.
But yeah, it's the same here. But one kind of quite deep challenge that we've met and that we meet when we work with sort of faculty development as such is like you said, Lars, the sort of resistance to change, but also there is the people are hesitating to share things to do with their teaching. It's very much a private affair. So in a workshop like this, you actually have to articulate how you teach and what you think around and about the way you structure and deliver your teaching, and that can be challenging sometimes. And even we've had experience like even during a workshop, because sometimes you'll have teams coming to these workshops, and not all of them are subscribing to this. Not all of them, they didn't all necessarily want to be there, but the team leader, manager had decided that this is probably a good idea, and then you have to kind of try to convince the rest of them to play along. So I've had to sometimes emphasize that this isn't meant to go up to level 1 at the university and you're now making decisions that you have to kind of stick with. This is you experimenting and to kind of set them in a frame of mind of experimentation and prototyping and thinking about the design process is a different way of approaching teaching and curriculum planning from what people are used to. So sometimes I just say, well, you've got 90 minutes now, and we're all here in this room together. So if you trust the process and we go through it step by step, and hopefully I can almost guarantee that it will make sense once we come out the other end and you've got this tangible output that you've created together. But it's new for many, for most, and that makes it a bit kind of uncomfortable sometimes, I suppose.
Yeah, and at the same time, I think that that slight feeling of being uncomfortable also enables every single person within a team to contribute, because sometimes obviously teams working on a program exists of a professor, a PhD, maybe a postdoctorate, or maybe even a master's student, because it's a bachelor course. And whereas in a meeting where one would say, well, let's start planning this, you could be hesitant to talk when you're not the professor in that regard. Here, everyone starts at the same moment in the same way, and everyone learns in the same manner of, okay, this is how we're going to be talking about our program, our module. And it's in that way, I suppose, quite democratic.
Yeah, and it's quite dependent on the discipline or kind of field that the workshop participants come from. We've had, say, with teacher education, for example, people will be more interested in the theoretical foundations of the model, and they might want to discuss Lorilard's 6 learning types and why are they like this and why isn't it a different model. And then again, you have to kind of just encourage them to play along for the duration of the workshop, and then also they can adapt, they can take ownership of this way of working and adapt and adjust it to fit their context. It's not set in stone. And if you want to use other ways of conceptualizing formal learning, then have a go. So it's very much the way of structuring the process. I think that's very valuable as well. It keeps things quite neat and orderly, and you can kind of go through it, and you're all there together and you can see what unfolds on the way. It's very interesting in that sense.
Thank you very much. I think you have managed to attract loads of attention around your staff days in April. Manuel Arias would like to know if anyone can join from whatever discipline, or is only meant for health faculty within the area of health studies. I hope not. I was hoping to be able to sign up. No, it's very
it's not only for health professionals, it's from all faculties. We're welcome,
all faculties.
Everyone.
Perfect. And then Celia Sales would like to know if it would be possible to organize an online workshop, for instance, with a team of teachers. She would be willing to join up some colleagues and be, I don't know, guinea pigs or just join your workshop. I don't know. Maybe you can think about it.
I think it's definitely something that we can think about as a virtual mobility option. Right now, we're obviously focused on the non-virtual mobility option in April, where you're already very happy to apply next week when it's online. Ashley has shared the link to our Zoom questionnaire, where you're welcome to type in your name and your background, and also state whether or not you already have someone that you would like to collaborate with, that you could apply with then as well, and come to Munich in April to work on your curriculum. But also, if you apply, we will be doing a matchmaking to see what possible colleagues could collaborate during the workshop in April. And yes, obviously, we would be able to think about a virtual option in that near future after April.
That would be good as well.
I would add that I would really, really recommend just having a look online. There is a lot of material out there, and papers and manuals even that have been produced from various communities and countries and institutions who have implemented or tried out the ABC method. So there will be there's plenty of stuff out there. So I would just have a go, have a little browse and see what's out there and try it out in your local context.
I think it's more the sharing the experiences and having someone to talk about them with, I think.
And then attend our workshops in April with your experiences.
Exactly.
To add on to can you hear me now? Yes.
Yes, we can.
To add on to what Lars said about the matchmaking, don't worry too much if you don't have someone to go with in your exact field, because you can still get a lot out of it, even if you're working with someone from a different field. We'll try to, when we were thinking about this, we were saying, I mean, sometimes there's a surprising overlap between different subjects that you might think that you have nothing to do, but actually both maths and another department might actually work on statistics, for example. So there's always something that you might be able to find in terms of planning together. So just make sure that the fact that your subject might not have a match, don't make that put you off. Make sure you sign up anyway, because you'll still get a lot out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe it's more enriching when you work together with someone from a different discipline. Barbara Stein would like to know your experience. How many people should participate in a successful workshop, both minimum and maximum? So I understand if you organize a workshop, how many participants would you be happy to have? Or what is the perfect number, if there is a perfect one?
I don't know if there's necessarily a perfect number, but we've mainly had experiences working with smaller groups. Obviously, you can't just have one person in a group, because it makes the experience not as enriching, because you don't have the collaboration. So it's always good to have multiple groups working together, because then you have this presentation experience where you get feedback from others.
And it also depends on how many facilitators you have. Obviously, in April will be 4 facilitators, so we can handle a quite big group of people developing courses. In general, for us at least, Ashley and I do the workshops together, so we're 2 people, and we've said between 3 and 5 people for one module, and then about also 3 to 5, maybe 6 modules in total at one time. So that is already stretching the 90 to 120 minute time frame, but that would be about a minute max in a certain way. Obviously 2 people could work together as well, but 3 I think is a very good number for a dynamic workshop.
And obviously the workshop in April will be over 2 days, so we can get some more concrete things out of it. So it's not just going to be the 90-minute sprint, but there'll be more aspects to it as well. So you can really walk away with a concrete plan for your courses and curricula.
And would it be better to bring some ideas already? Like a certain...
I mean, it depends on if you have ideas or not.
Yeah.
Very good. Joe Almeida is already thinking about using the method in one of their courses for practicum students. So lots of interest in your staff days, definitely. Kine, a question for you from Barbara Stein. Do you provide any training the facilitator support at Tromsø?
Oh. Not formally, but we can certainly train. We're a small institution, so just get in touch, and I'm sure we can sort something out. Yeah.
And here's a very nice message that I also agree with from Joe Almeida. Thank you for organizing the webinar and making us think of different ways to improve students' learning processes, and also keeping us challenged and motivated, which is something that I think instructors, teachers from all different levels feel the need to feel motivated all the time, not forget what we're doing. So yeah, thank you very much, Joe, for this message. But I think we we all agree with. I don't know if you want to sum it up somehow, or I think you've answered loads of questions, and we're all really looking forward to seeing that application to join your staff days in April. That would be great, a great way to finishing up this webinar. As I said, as Sarah had already pointed out, the webinar will be available on the YouGlow YouTube channel once it has been edited. So you can go back through all the slides and listen to all our speakers' advices and ideas and ways of looking at designing learning design methods. Somehow it comes out the other way around. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. I thank all four speakers. It has been great having you and moderating this seminar, and we have all learned a great deal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.